What's up, everybody? It's JC Finance. Today, I have a special guest who has been following Nikola Motors for some time now. Very highly amped company, also described as possibly the next Tesla. He's all the way from the UK. You can follow him on Twitter under Nikola Truth. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm good. How about you?
Everything's well. Can't complain in these crazy times. You've been following the company for some time now. If you could let the people know how you got started and what interested you so much about this company, because it seems like you've been laser focused about this company.
Yeah, I mean, I've always heard about their claims from years back when Tesla came out with their own truck. You hear of this hydrogen truck that goes more miles, it's cheaper and all that. I've never really paid attention to that because since discovering Tesla, I've always thought hydrogen was a bit of a joke. But I mean, then recently when Nikola was trying to go public, I just see these ridiculous claims from people uh, Alex on Twitter or Omar or people like that. You just see these ridiculous claims, and you can't help but look into it and see, hang on, what the hell are they saying? This is ridiculous. And then just following that, obviously they had Trever Milton, who's just absolutely mental, zero filter on that guy. Yeah, so it's just looking at that, it's just easy to debunk. I can't imagine how people fall for it so much that they did. But yeah, it just went from there. Then started a dedicated account just to get my word out to more people. That seemed to work all right. So yeah, that's basically how I started.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy how much hype this company has generated, obviously, because of Trevor Milton and his communication and being out there, being so open and stuff. And then he always relies on piggybacking on Tesla. He's always bringing them up on interviews. And the way I look at it, you guys aren't competing against each other. You guys are competing against, ICE vehicles. And he doesn't seem to get that. He can leverage, all the hype that Tesla's getting. So yeah, let's just talk about the comparison between hydrogen fuel cells and battery electric. To me, it's crazy the amount of money and infrastructure and the whole science behind it. You literally need to convert the water into hydrogen. You got to remove the oxygen from the hydrogen itself, then store it. And it just doesn't seem like a viable option as opposed to electric vehicles where you can get solar panels, generate electricity from the sun, and then just plug it into your vehicle. So yeah, just compare the two options here.
Yeah, I mean, the as it goes to the infrastructure, I'd say that's the least of the concern because infrastructure was a problem with electric vehicles back in well, I don't know, 2010 or something. But it's just the efficiency of the hydrogen is just so much worse. It's not like 20% less or 30% less. It's like many times worse. So to just have that, and then, I mean, all this is economics because it can't, like, it's not that, okay, they're competing against diesel and petrol and all that, but this is a capitalist world. They are still competing against each other. If you have one where the efficiency is like near 90%, for certain things. The other where it's like even just one aspect of it, splitting the water into hydrogen and oxygen. If the efficiency of that is worse than 50%, it's just uneconomical. It can't work. Unless there's some ridiculous government subsidies program, it just can't work with all the oil support that hydrogen has. But then, as we are in the modern day, batteries are super cheap now. Electricity is getting even cheaper. The charging grid is all there. The hydrogen is not there. It's like it's like a few places that exist, like California, but then you can never leave California. You can never leave London. It's just it's really it's absurd because unlike electric vehicles, hydrogen does need a fuel and it's very precise in what it wants to take. It has to be hydrogen from a pump, a pressurized pump. Electric vehicles, you can have power from a supercharger, like a CHAdeMO adapter, or even like your standard plug. Anywhere you can theoretically charge an electric vehicle. That's a huge advantage that hydrogen needs the infrastructure, whereas batteries, it's a huge bonus, of course, but you can charge at home. You can't do that with electric vehicles.
Right, and it's crazy how even like big companies, you have Audi, Mercedes, Toyota, Hyundai, BMW, they're investing in hydrogen fuel cell. So it's like what's clear for us and just normal people, it's like why are they investing so much money that doesn't make sense at all? I don't know what avenue or route they're taking, or they just can't compete with Tesla in the electric field. And it's like, yeah, at first glance, yeah, hydrogen, it's abundant and it may seem like a valuable source. But when you come down to it, like the science you said, the efficiency and the economics didn't work, 5, 10 years ago. And the electricity cost is coming way down, manufacturing batteries. So it's not even a viable choice at all. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think they went for that because these decisions they made were made in like, I mean, the 20th century, to be fair. Like the times where like even the EV1 was not a real thing. Even before the EV1, they're making these decisions. We need a green solution to climate change. Electric vehicles aren't really an option. We'll go with hydrogen. And since then, they've just never really. I feel like they've never reevaluated, or they've always had minimal gains, and they've deluded themselves into thinking they'll get better with these sunk costs and all that. They've really never managed to get it work like proper mainstream. Obviously, you have like Toyota has their Mirai and all that, but that's not really a mainstream car. But they've invested a lot in that, into hydrogen and stuff like that. They don't really have a battery advantage now. I mean, at this point, Tesla's in the lead and improving past this. You're never going to manage to catch them. So the options for these like big auto players are either put everything into EVs and end up with a worse product, or like bet everything on this hydrogen, hope that somehow it's going to work out. And sadly for them, that's just not how physics is going to dictate the winner in this case.
Right. And Sandy Monroe put this in nice, simple terms. If you have two runners and one runner has a 10-meter head start and they both run at the same speed, runner number one isn't going to catch up runner number two. And this is not the case. Tesla has a head start and they're running faster. They're innovating faster. They're learning faster. The competition will never catch up.
Okay, yeah, I mean, even talking about Nikola, like some of the spec of their truck, the big semi truck versus the Tesla semi, at the time, a few of them were about equal, or it appeared that Nikola would have the advantage. But now with the new battery that Tesla has unveiled, Tesla has the clear advantage. And that's just been well, like less than a year. I've been looking at Nikola properly, and Tesla's hugely increased their lead. No one else has done that like anywhere near close to that. I mean, GM had their like battery day. Of, that's just nowhere near comparable to Tesla's new cell that they have. It's just the lead is increasing like more. I feel like not only will you not catch them, you're going to get further and further behind. That's just like incredible to think of. Yeah.
It really is. And, Tesla's doing over the air updates on their vehicles probably at least once a year, making them more efficient, improving efficiencies when it comes to battery and thermal management. The, like you said, the lead's getting, it's growing. It's basically growing. I want to talk about more of the semi because that's basically where a lot of Tesla fans or shareholders or whatever found out about Nikola is the lawsuit about the semi truck. Nikola sued Tesla for $2 billion in 2018 regarding the design of the cabin, basically moving the entrance of the doors further back into the cabin. So you have a nice drag coefficient for efficiency and stuff like that. So if you could talk about more of that lawsuit and Nikola's intentions there.
Yeah. So of course, like everyone pretty much has heard of this lawsuit, and it pissed off a lot of Tesla fans. I think in regards to the legal validity of the lawsuit, I mean, at the time, I think maybe Nikola had a case that it was a very similar design. But I mean, the thing is, that's the obvious design. If you want efficiency, you have to have the like the bullet-shaped like design. I don't think Tesla stole that from Nikola at all. I think they just like came up with it on their own. Of course, that doesn't mean that they're not free from patent litigation. Of course, now we know that Nikola's patent is potentially invalid anyway because they didn't credit the original designer for it. And if you look back into historical designs, there are so many aerodynamically efficient, like like truck designs. Tesla and Nikola, not even near the first to come up with it. But I think the reason why Tesla investors got pissed off with that is because like the principle behind it, like in comparison, Tesla like open sources most of their patents, especially the non-essential ones, like stuff like the battery pack, how it's put together, and stuff like that. Stuff that Tesla like it helps, and they are giving away a bit of advantage, but it's not going to hugely make a difference. Whereas Nikola I mean, they're suing them for $2 billion, which is a ridiculous amount. Over, it's just a design. It's not technology that's like really been stolen. It's not anything like that. It's just like the shape of the thing, which is ridiculous, especially when you know all that's come before it and how it's not a unique design. But you'd hear Trevor Milton go on like people's podcasts or go on mainstream media and talk about like reasons why he did it. But really, if you want to help the sustainable movement, you would open source that design or at least try to come to an arrangement, like a very reasonable arrangement. But thankfully, Elon Musk like would have like none of that. It's it's just a design. There should be no like patent trolling around like the shape of a truck because that's like the least important thing regarding the like sustainability movement. And then like even then, most of Nikola's like trucks that they are supposedly going to come out first, which is the Nikola Tre, doesn't even have that shape. They're not even using the design for at least like 3 years, if ever. So yeah, I mean, it's an absurd thing, especially to ask $2 billion for.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely absurd. I mean, anyone can use that design. It doesn't matter if it's electric or gas or whatever. Again, like you said, it does improve efficiencies, but it's not like proprietary. It was a groundbreaking invention, and it's gonna like push and accelerate their innovation and lead or anything like that. It's just a simple design aspect, like you said. It's nothing crazy. And to, leverage this lawsuit to generate hype and stuff like that for their trucks and everything like that. Pretty absurd. And
Yeah, exactly. And that's why
go
some people
ahead.
think it's more of a PR move than, yeah, some people think that the lawsuit's more of a PR move just to get Nikola like some attention. Because I mean, it's an absurd lawsuit. I don't know if they genuinely believe they'd get $2 billion out of that, but I think they knew, and Trevor Milton knew that 2 billion was too much to ask for. So I think it's just one of their ploys to get media attention, and unfortunately, everyone sort of played into that, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It kind of just sheds light on the whole thing of Trevor Milton's intent with generating hype. And since we're on Trevor Milton, let's talk more about him. He's been the CEO for a while, communicating freely on Twitter, communicating with fans and investors and stuff like that, generate a bunch of hype. It seems like he's always switching up his story as a CEO. One thing is his business model and how it's always changing. It's just like some of his interviews that he's been on. It's like he would say the company's vertically integrated in one interview. And then the other interview, he would say they're outsourcing everything. They're getting the best of the best and they're going to basically hand it off to other people. It's freaking insane for a CEO. Like your business model should be clear and cut, very transparent on what you're doing. And it seems like they're just changing it, whatever fit the story at the time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, they'd say they have this one plan, and then that'd be scrapped, and then they'd move on to this new thing. And like when they started off with natural gas, I think that one of their partners dropped them, so they had to come up with something pretty quick. So you ended up with the Nikola One like debacle. And then they realized hydrogen doesn't really work, so they've come up with this Nikola Tray battery truck. They had the Nikola Badger, and now that's been dropped as well. So it seemed like on those interviews, Trevor was essentially making it up as he goes along, just to generate whatever like stock pumping he can in that moment. And I mean, for a short while, it worked very well for him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Another thing that he did switch back on was like the battery technology. I remember I was reading a report that they were able to get, I believe it was like 500 watt hours per kilogram or something crazy like that. And that's groundbreaking technology. Like Tesla doesn't even have anything close to that yet. They'll eventually get there. And then at the end of the day, he was like, "Yeah, we have this groundbreaking technology that's leading tech, but we're gonna outsource that." And like they were testing these cells at like quarter scale, and they didn't have the actual machine sizes, and it was just absurd. Another Trevor Milton promising, high promising, but like there was
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't believe that they ever had that battery technology. I mean, for people who've read the Hindenburg report, they'll know that the supposed partner that they had released or contacted, they turned out to be like bullshitting it even more than Nikola is. So yeah, I seriously doubt that they ever had anywhere close to 500 watt hours per kilogram. And if they did, it was probably just one of these labs who's like touting their amazing results. But then in reality, it's impossible to, very difficult to manufacture on a large scale. By the time that would happen, everyone else would have caught up as well. So yeah, I think pinch of salt and all that.
right. And then this battery technology was probably one of the big things that excited GM when they invested or kind of merged together on this Nikola Badger. They announced the deal, and Nikola's stock increased from 35 to 50 after the deal was announced. And to me, the deal seemed pretty crazy. I really didn't understand the benefits from both parties. It was kind of just like, yeah, we're going to build this thing together, and Nikola had this groundbreaking technology, but GM's going to produce it and we're going to use their technology. Like, I didn't really understand from both parties. And one thing that I came to conclude was that GM is so far behind Tesla that it kind of put them in a corner where they had to make a decision on, how are we going to get our foot in the door? It was kind of like a risk-free merger together with Nikola. So if you could talk about that little merger that they had
Yeah,
with the Badger there.
yeah. I mean, okay. So the original deal was that Nikola would get 11% equity in Nikola, which was at the time worth $2 billion. But now it's worth probably half that. And they were going to GM was going to build the Badger and put their own tech into the Badger. Then Nikola was basically just going to put sort of like the the cab on top of that, sort of like really not anything like too important. And then Nikola was going to pay GM $700 million to develop the Badger, but as a cost plus contract. So if it costs more, they'd pay more. So for GM's perspective, it's basically zero risk. And GM had the idea that they're basically playing Nikola like they're fools. But then, of course, on the Nikola side, like Trevor's only goal, in my opinion, like allegedly and all that, they were just trying to pump the stock to appear like a legitimate company, so Trever Milton can sell out, get rich, and then fuck off. So, like from his side, they were playing like GM really hard. So they're both trying to play each other. It's just this absurd thing. Then the day after the Hindenburg report comes out and the whole game is up and the whole deal is put into like renegotiation, and now we're hearing that basically the Badger is cancelled. So that plan's what like failed entirely. The day before Trevor's lockup period ends, the stock tanks, which is hilarious. And then the whole play was up at that point. But yeah, that's essentially what's happened there.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how fast everything happened. Like when we were scheduling this podcast, we're saying like, yeah, oh yeah, things are gonna change, but like, I didn't think it was gonna change this fast or like to this drastic point that we're at now.
No.
And it was pretty good timing by Hindenburg report, because the Nikola stock shot up. So obviously, the higher it is, then the better it is for the short. If you could discuss more of that Hindenburg report, I encourage everyone to take a look if you're thinking about investing in Nikola or even shorting them.
Yeah, so I won't go into all the details of the report, but I do again highly suggest people like read that in full. If not in full, there is a like an abbreviated version that they have on their like Twitter page. But essentially, there's a few like proper smackdown like debunking moments of Nikola. Most famous of them all was they basically rolled a truck down a hill and said "in motion," which is that was their Nikola One. It's the same truck that they brought up on stage at the first unveiling. They said it had like 1,200 miles of like clean range and all that. That was never true. It never worked. The Hydrogen One vehicle has never worked. And then there's a few other things, basically like they said they had solar panels, like huge tons of solar panels on the roof of their headquarters. That was just debunked with like I think satellite images or a drone. They had their factory where they're just not like they're not even building it. They're just pushing dirt around. And there's so many things where you see it, or like how like their head of hydrogen was Trever Milton's brother, and before that he was basically just doing like subcontracting work in like Hawaii and places like that. All these people had no idea what they're doing. Like hugely underqualified, like people in the senior positions. And it's just absurd to see like how basically they duped people like that. And it was all just a thing of like tell the president you're having dinner with the king, and then tell the king you're having dinner with the president, and you dupe both of them. That's basically how Nicola operated for like years and years. I mean, even now, that's essentially how they're trying to do business, but it just doesn't work that way now. So yeah, that's basically what Hindenburg has exposed at this point.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy report and how detailed it was. Like they stated they had emails, phone calls, text messages of Nikola committing all this fraud. Like you said, they lied about their truck being functional and working when in reality it was just rolling down the hill. And that's like the first thing I noticed when I went on their website. I was like, oh cool, they have like a jet ski, electric jet ski. I was like, that looks pretty cool. Let me go check it out. I go on their website and it's not functional at all. It's not being used. They have pictures, they have Photoshop images and stuff like that. And none of their products are actually being used on their website. So I'm like, what's going on here? Like they haven't delivered anything. They haven't even proved anything out. Like making the outside of a vehicle is pretty simple. It's the technology and the efficiency that's most important about the vehicle itself. And it seems like they haven't done that on any of their vehicles at all.
Yeah, no. I mean, even the prototypes that they have, like that do work, they're built, I believe, by Pratt and Miller, which is like, yeah. I mean, anyone can build or get someone else to build a functional prototype. That's not difficult. Nikola Nikola doesn't really have technology like by themselves. They can't build prototypes by themselves. So like make believe, like trying to trick people into like on their websites, trick people into thinking they have these products, or like that Nikola Wave thing, the jet ski. They'd show it in the water. They show it like being pushed out into the water. They can't show it like someone actually riding on it because well, presumably they're photoshopped on that good. But I mean, yeah, they certainly tried to deceive people, which is what like this whole thing was about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. All the Twitter trolls out there, they're asking the question, who's Nikola's competition? And everyone's saying like Photoshop or Adobe and stuff like that. Because that's basically their whole freaking website is just Photoshop. Like you can
Yeah.
see, yeah, it looks like a vehicle that's in motion, but if you really look at it, all the frames are messed up, the tires, the background, the lighting, it's ridiculous. And then going back to the Hindenburg report, it was pretty funny when Trever Milton said, you know, I'm gonna stay up all night. I'm gonna address every little point that they did, and here's my rebuttal and stuff like that. And then he only addressed like a few things. And then on Twitter, he was like, "Oh, due to counsel, I'm gonna stay silent on this topic and whatnot."
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, here the walls are falling in for sure."
yeah. They basically admitted to a few things, said one or two things like not entirely accurate, then used the classic excuse of the lawyers have told me not to say anything. And then that's yeah. I mean, we know how that ended.
That kind of just put Trever Milton silent, because obviously they were getting investigated by Department of Justice and the SEC, and then his Twitter became like some of his tweets actually were deleted until like June or July. It was something quite weird, and it just seemed like everything was just falling apart so quickly, and that led to Trever Milton's exit. If you could speak on that and how that happened.
Yeah. So Trevor Milton's exit is not it's not just down to the Hindenburg report, I think. Um, Around this time, because Trevor was getting a lot of bad press, there were people who were bringing up stuff that he'd done like in the past. And those allegations were stuff like how at a relative's funeral he'd molested his 15-year-old cousin. This is the allegation. Or another allegation is an employee of his when she was 15. He was like trying to mess around with her and stuff like that. And he was like being really inappropriate with like just random girls like that he knew and stuff like that. Like all this is just alleged, by the way. And so after that, he'd been accused of all this fraud, and he had no proper response to that. And he'd also been accused of all this sexual misconduct, and there were lawsuits regarding that as well. I think Nikola decided, and he probably had to agree, that he just allowed to keep his chairs, but just had to leave the company. It's best for Nikola if he just left the company. And I mean, I would agree with that. It was best that he left the company. It's far less like entertaining for us because there's no madman tweeting and like ranting on Instagram. But I mean, at this point, he still owns all these shares, and at this point, he's not even locked up anymore. So he could sell essentially whenever he wants to. And I don't think he has yet. I might be wrong, but I mean, if he does, that's like 90 million shares that just dumped immediately. The stock could crash even more. Now, would he want to do that whilst he's under SEC and DOJ investigation? Possibly not, but I mean, we'll see. But either way, looping back to the question why he left, yeah, I think after all those allegations, there's zero chance that he could stay a credible head of the company, which is what he was. He was the figurehead of the company. Zero chance you can stay credible after all of that, even if the allegations were proven false. Once you've been accused of that sort of thing, I mean, the public don't view you the same way, and even his like super hardcore fans, just like crazy people, even they like realize that maybe he's not the best guy.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. All the accusations and everything regarding Trever. We won't get too far into it. Again, they're just rumors at this point. But yeah, if you see all the text messages and everything, it's pretty wild what came to be. And it came down pretty freaking quick. Like you said, his family members and stuff like that, text messages, screenshots. Is there anything else that you want to discuss regarding Nikola, the stuff that we haven't touched upon?
Well, yeah, there actually is something. Got a story that I've actually not told anyone yet. So basically, I think this was late September, when I was still like tweeting like a madman. Apparently, one of my tweets, I said something basically, I can't remember what the context was, but we're talking about Trevor, how he's got all this stuff. I said something on the lines of one precisely placed hydrogen bomb or hydrogen vehicle may make Trevor short of one of his mansions. I thought that was an entirely harmless tweet. I didn't think anything would come of that. And obviously, I'm not being serious. That didn't mean that in any way. Like, ever going to follow through. But just like a few weeks ago, I had the fucking police around. Like people like knock on my door saying, "Are you Louis Coleman?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like really confused. When it came in, I asked if it was about like the Trever Milton guy, and I thought it'd just be something like defamation or something like that, which is like easily like dismissed. Then he comes out with this like one obscure tweet from months ago. It was like, damn, that's the fucking police. Then I was like thinking about it. I was like really like, what the fuck's going on? I was thinking Trevor Milton must have spent like ages just looking through every single bloody tweet I've made. I've made like 18,000 tweets, just looking for one that he can like scare me off or something. And it's just absurd that that's happened. They sent the police around. Obviously, I don't know why police got involved because clearly I was not being serious. I don't know if this is just US police getting actually like bomb scared or some shit. But I mean, that was mental.
Yeah, that's
Really
absolutely
weird.
insane. And like I said earlier, it's pretty crazy how your Twitter just took off. Like if I wanted to know anything about Nikola going on, like you were on it, like you were tweeting valuable
Oh yeah.
information, like stuff that you couldn't get on articles on the mainstream media at all. So that story is pretty wild. So what was the outcome of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think my Twitter blew up essentially for the branding. I mean, the same reason Nikola blew up actually. They were called Nikola. Obviously, people make the association with Tesla. I'm called Nikola Tesla's ghost. It's just, I mean, obvious branding and a little bit of rip off of the Steve Jobs guy, which is like Omar's thing. But yeah, no, I had the information primarily from just looking at their website, which people at the time hadn't done. So I looked at the compare section between diesel, battery electric vehicles, and hydrogen vehicles, and just saw how completely like insane that was. Just like stuff that they've released, and just looking at that. But then also, if you know the Nikola Insider guy, I was in DMs with him and a bunch of other people. I had all the information from there as well. So it's just like all this information. While this company was like going crazy with their stock, super volatile. I was just pumping that out, and then of course, like people who are like that's the topical thing at the time. People just like following. I went on the T podcast as well. Spoke to Omar, Kristen, and Scott. That was pretty cool. And so yeah, but I'm so glad that it did blow up because I did have people say like DM me. I was thinking of investing into this stock at say like $60. You've convinced me otherwise. And then when the shares at $30 at the time, they said thank you for that. People saying I want to invest in a clean energy company that isn't Tesla. Is Nikola a safe thing? It's like no, it really isn't. I'd advise you against that. And I'm glad that I've like. I mean, I don't know how many people I've managed to stop from like essentially throwing all their money away, but like even if it was just one person, I'd be very glad that I was able to do that.
Yeah, and I think people don't really understand why people are doing this. You know, they feel like they're like that person's attacking this company. It's just they're communicating their thoughts and analysis on the company. And it's not to, target people and do anything
Yeah,
like that. Like I've gotten questions too. It's like, should I invest in Nikola? I would do my research, very little, go on the website. I do like kind of this feeler thing. Like I'm not looking at any financial statements or anything like that. You just want to get a feel for the company. It's like they haven't produced anything at all. Like I didn't even get to the finances at that point. You bounce around the website, they release stuff, and they say one thing, do another, and it's pretty wild company.
yeah. I mean, I'm a bit like that as well. Like, obviously, I know Tesla, like a lot of it inside and out. But a few of my other investments, like beyond me, I don't really know like what they're up to that well. I just all I need to know is like the basic stuff of how much they're doing, what the product like, is it something that I think is potentially going to be disruptive. But Nikola is just so obviously not going to happen. They have no product, no revenue really. Their only major revenue has been selling solar panels to the founder of the company. And I mean, it was just so clear that they weren't like a legitimate company, in my opinion. Painful to see people defend them like people would defend Tesla from like Tesla shorts. It's just painful to see that. Like I wasn't trying to be like create animosity or anything like that. I was just trying to get the word out that please do your research. I don't think I was ever saying don't buy Nikola stock. I was saying do your research. Like it's just sad to see how many people never like got that message.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. And that's one of the things that I've based my YouTube channel is as an investor, you have to do your own research. You can't listen to the mainstream media. And I talked to Jason about this on my last podcast is if we listened to the biggest investment banks, the biggest firms, analysis, investors, I personally would have never invested in Tesla. And that would have been a big missed opportunity. Tesla is still one of the biggest shorted companies in the world. And still that they still not get in the picture of Tesla and what they're doing. And I think a lot of people they kind of have FOMO, fear of missing out on Tesla. And everyone's like, they see an article, Nikola is the next Tesla. I'm like, no, not true. Tesla is the next Tesla. They're
Yeah,
very unique.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, people say the next Tesla, so Tesla's like done, it's over, it's like it's run up and it's never going to go up anymore, which is absurd. I mean, I still have a friend who does well more trading than investing, but he keeps on saying, "No, I've missed the boat with Tesla," and I keep on telling him, "No, you haven't, mate. There's still like huge potential to go." And I was like, "Oh, come on, man, you got to pull that trigger at some point." Or he keeps on saying he's waiting for a dip, and I'm like, by the time that there's going to be a dip, it's still going to be up from where it is now, and it's like it's just yeah. I mean, but people really shouldn't listen to the mainstream media because the mainstream media, I mean, number one, for a lot of times they're biased and or just paid for. Like someone is fitting that bill. Sometimes it's not the media company. Sometimes it's the oil company, for example. But then even like YouTubers, I mean, you shouldn't just take some YouTubers' word for it. People shouldn't just take my word for it. They should get all the information they can. Ideally, listen to both sides of the argument. Like actually listen to both sides of the argument, not just pretend to. Um, and then make a decision. But yeah, I mean, like you, if I just watched CNBC and did what they recommended, maybe I'd bought Tesla now after it went up quite a bit. But I wouldn't at all have got in early. I mean, I got in on my 18th birthday when it was, I don't know, like $200 per share or a little bit more than that pre-split. And now it's I mean, nearly $600 per share after a split. So yeah, definitely don't listen to the mainstream media or really anyone else. You do need to, I mean, listen to them, but don't take their word for it and do your own research, come to your own conclusions. Absolutely.
yeah, that's definitely well said. Like you said, you want to get both sides of the story. You want to listen to the bulls and you want to listen to the shorts, and that's the still reason why I still follow some of the Tesla shorts on Twitter, although they post ridiculous stuff. It's good to see the other side of the fence. It's kind of a good gauge. And you just
Yeah.
make your analysis yourself. You listen to them. I'm like, does that make sense? Do they have a good track record? And then when it comes down to it, you make your own decision. And as an investor, you're the only person you should be able to give credit to and blame yourself. Like do the research yourself. And then that's the way to be financially free and free as an investor. Since we talked about Tesla so much, any thoughts on Tesla Battery Day and what they released?
Oh my God, battery day. That's insane. I mean, you don't even have to watch the whole thing. Obviously, I recommend it, and like you absolutely should. But just look at the one slide summary of it all. Like the miles, like extra miles is plus 56%. The cost per kilowatt hour like down like 59%. The cost, the capex per megawatt hour is down like 70% or something like that. I can't remember the exact figures. That's just insane. I mean, beforehand, I was thinking maybe they could get 25% improvement in every category, and that would be insane. That would be insane. Like greater than 50% in pretty much every category. I mean, that's mind blowing. And it's I mean, every time Tesla comes up with these things, you think, why are they the first to do this? Like this, like the super bottle and octavalve. Why are they the first to create one system, whole vehicle instead of like 8 separate? Why are they the like the first ones to come up with this like larger like battery? I mean, of course they have proprietary technology and they bought Maxwell and all that, but it's just so much of an improvement that I fail to see how like anyone else could get at all near Tesla's technology. And I mean, after Battery Day, I just refuse to have any other EV stocks, like even Neo, which I think is probably a great company for second place. I just can't bring myself to have their stock after seeing how much of an advantage Tesla has. Because it's just insane. Once that advantage hits, I mean, Tesla's going to be so much cheaper and so much better. It's ridiculous. I mean, truly mind blowing.
Right, and just look at the current technology and performance and efficiencies that they have now. It's already, X amount greater than the competition. So now once they release this stuff, it's like, what is Legacy going to do? Just like you said, and it's just pretty crazy on their innovation and efficiencies. Every category, they're basically just laser focused, how can we build this faster? All right, now let's focus on autonomy, and then let's focus on batteries and manufacturing and assembly. And I can't imagine investing in another company in any sector that they're competing in, whether it's energy or batteries. Or I had one
Yeah,
person ask me, oh, should I invest in CATL or Panasonic, or they're going to be making batteries for Tesla. I was like, definitely not. According to, did you watch Battery Day? They're going to blow them out of the water like easily. Like they're gonna double and triple like the world's production
yeah,
today in like a couple years. Like what they're doing is just, and it just opens up the avenue for
exactly.
a bunch of different products. They're talking about VTOL, obviously their storage system, possibly working on an HVAC system. It's like sky's the limit with that company, and they're not slowing down. They're speeding up. Like they're learning faster, they're innovating faster, and it's just
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah. I mean, I think that's fair enough. I would, I mean, in as much as I say it's advice, technically it's not advice. I don't want people to sue me, but I would stay away from any competitor to Tesla, like even insurance companies. I wouldn't want to go near that because once autonomy hits, you're not going to need insurance. You're going to just have Tesla insurance. Like that's probably going to be included in the price and all that. But I mean, yeah, it's just such a competitive company that really, I mean, if Elon comes into your business segment or he announces plans that he wants to, if I was a van maker and I hear Elon wants to get into vans, I'm selling, I'm getting out, just running. So yeah, I mean, my personal only investments are Tesla and Beyond Meat, and they're completely like unrelated, food and like vehicles, energy, and all that, completely unrelated. But I've used to own, like I said, I used to own Neo stock, but at this point, not a chance, not a chance. You can't compete with Elon.
Right, and it's again, a lot of people are always thinking about, oh, I missed my chance on Tesla, or it's too expensive now. And what I call that is they're looking to the left of the stock market, investing. Oh, it was $100 a week ago. It must be too expensive now. Like you
Yeah,
literally could have said that for like the last 2 or 3 years. Oh, it's so expensive now, and you could have missed a great opportunity. And a lot of people
yeah,
are like, I'm waiting for like your friend. I've heard it plenty of times. I'm waiting for the dip. Like, and that person told me about that 2 years ago. I'm like, what dip are you waiting for? You just got to get your feet in the water or do your research, and then things will just be so much clearer. Like if you just put the work up front, do all the work, research, analysis, and then that would make your investing job so much easier. It won't,
Yeah. I
it
mean,
won't,
you don't even have to do a whole lot of research. I
yeah.
mean, it's just the basic principles of how much are they growing, what's their technological advantage, how much better is their product, is it improving faster than everyone else's product? I mean, that's all there is to it. And I see that with Tesla, I see that with SpaceX, I see that with uh, Neuralink down the line, I see that with Beyond Meat. Of course, Beyond Meat does actually have competitors, so that's a slightly different story there. But it's not like you're having to spend like weeks on end, like like financial charts and picking apart every little bit of the capex in this year was a little bit higher. None of that shit. Just see how much they're growing, see how much better their product is, and see their growth. Um, it's not hard. People think that it's crazy hard to get good returns in the stock market, and it's not. It's really not. You just have to have a basic understanding of where the company's going, what potentially the risks are, and how good their competition is. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, again, like ARK Invest does a great job covering Tesla and all the disruption that they're doing between all the sectors. Vehicles are
Yeah.
going electric 100%. Who's leading that? Tesla. All right. Sustainable energy. Who's leading that? Tesla. Sustainable storage. Who's leading that? Tesla. All vehicles will be autonomous, driving themselves. Who's leading that? Tesla. Just look at the market cap of these sectors. It's trillions of dollars, like you said. Just a nice,
Yeah.
easy, simple glance, and you could say, "Wow, this is a company that's just going to disrupt every sector that they get into."
Yeah. I mean, what you've just said right there is really all the research you need to be convinced of this company. They're leading everything they're doing. That's all you need to know, really. They're financially all right. The CEO is a sane person. I mean, it's simple. And you have people like ARK Invest who just do all the research for you. You just have to listen to their look at their summary, and you're good. Yeah. I hate it when people think the stock market is some difficult thing to do. It's really easy, at least I've found.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, and that's kind of why I think some of the analysts on Wall Street are so freaking confused. Is they look at the financial statement of Tesla and they're like, "Oh, they're barely making profit or they're losing money." It's like that doesn't really matter. They're growing at a ridiculous speed. If you just see what they're actually doing and innovating, and you
Yeah.
compare that to somebody else, really no competition at all. And they're literally only
Yeah,
just
no,
getting
for real.
started. They're just getting started. Like they have 2 factories up and running. They're building 2 right now that are going to be up and running mid next year, and then they'll probably release another gigafactory or terafactory late 2021, if not 2022. And to this point, they probably already have it selected. They're just
Yeah.
probably designing the factory at this point, and seeing what vehicles they want to manufacture out of that place. So with that being said, I always like to ask this question since it's so early in Tesla's history is what's your exit plan and when do you plan on selling your shares, or have you even thought about that at all?
Yeah. I mean, my exit plan is not a price. Like, because I don't know where the end to this is. There's not, at this point, in my opinion, an end in sight at all. So my exit plan will be when Tesla seems to in a way, stop innovating, or at least slow down in their innovation. And I feel like with a company such as Tesla, that's just going to be when they hit the brick wall of physics at the time. Like technology cannot physically improve anymore. That will be when Tesla reaches its endpoint. That's probably not going to be for, I mean, at least 10 years, potentially even 20 years. This is such a company with such I mean, the top tier of talent, like in the, I mean, the US and really in the world, or at least it will be once they have a presence in the entire world. I mean, they could go into any segment they want, and most likely they're going to make the best product in that segment. So, I mean, it sounds insane, but this company could be 10 trillion, 20 trillion, or 30 trillion like market cap company, which is so much more than what it is today. But as for my exit plan, I mean, it's only going to be when Tesla stops or appears to stop innovating. I'll probably not sell out entirely, but maybe like sell out most of my shit and put it hopefully in something else. Because I'm hoping at the time, I mean, SpaceX is unlikely to go public ever, but maybe like something like Neuralink will. I'm hoping that I can get in on Neuralink. If that does, then I very likely would transfer some of my shares to Neuralink. But if I see a better opportunity than Tesla, I'll go for it. But I really doubt that will ever happen for possibly a decade or so. So yeah,
Right. And like you said, they're attracting the best talent in the world, and that's not going to stop for a while,
no,
probably the next 10, 15 years. It's like, oh, I'm a smart engineer. Where do I want to work? It's either SpaceX or Tesla. And once another company attracts better engineers, then maybe, but I don't see that anytime soon. I kind of have a vague response to when I'm gonna sell my shares, but it's so far down the road. It's like I'm not really worried about it. I'm still buying Tesla at these all-time highs, whether it's partial shares or whatever, whenever it
yeah,
takes
same,
a little dip.
same. I mean, I've calculated that. I mean, maybe not so much this year because student accommodation is quite expensive, but like next year when hopefully rent is a lot cheaper, I can grow my position. I'm a student and I can still grow a Tesla position. And that's still worthwhile for me. And that's like crazy to think about. Like, I mean, I reckon I'm at the point where if I do get a job, which I probably will, it'll be because I want to do it, not because I have to do it. And to have that freedom is such a good thing. I mean, I'd hate the idea of having to work for a living. But I'm glad that at such a young age I've not had to be in that position. But I mean, just talking about going back to like Tesla's talent, I mean, I'm an engineering student, and if I was going to work somewhere, it would have to be Tesla or another of Elon Musk's companies, depending on probably where they are. I probably wouldn't want to work in America just because it's probably a bit difficult. Maybe I don't like the laws and all that like stuff, but like even at this point, I could go to work in Germany pretty easily, and that'd be highly fulfilling. I mean, I wouldn't really consider going anywhere else. Like, it'd have to be somewhere as innovative as Tesla, or at least pretty close. So yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome that you're so ahead of your time investing in college. I mean, I was even investing in college. I started shortly after. I was just laser focused on my degree, mechanical engineering, likewise with you. And then another point, like you said, you want to either work for something that you really care about that's fulfilling, or work for yourself, where you can make your own decision.
yeah,
You don't want to be employee 2,964 and you don't really matter. And it's a 9 to 5 job just for a paycheck and you're miserable in life. Where there's different avenues in the way the stock market is kind of changing, or like investing is, there's so much information out there that wasn't accessible back in the day. Now you can just order stocks for free on Robinhood or whatever app you have.
yeah,
So it's a good transition for people to be financially free and make decisions for themselves.
yeah. I feel like my generation have it super easy.
Yeah, there's plenty of information. Twitter, YouTube, those are basically the two big
Yeah,
platforms that I rely on, whether it comes for investing or anything like that. It's like, Elon Musk, he's really active on Twitter, and I invest in
yeah,
Tesla. So he would post something on Twitter or respond to somebody, and then you have that information firsthand. And then the mainstream media will write an article about it like a week later. Like they're so far behind the eight ball with Tesla, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we've been talking for like an hour now. I think we're ready to wrap it up. Is there anything that you want to discuss further that we haven't touched upon, or you have any closing remarks?
Uh, well, just closing remarks. I mean, thanks for like having me on. It's been like good to talk to like someone different in this like lockdown period. Uh, yeah, so I mean, it's been a good experience. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate it. Another question, like going forward, do you continue to really track or, you know, follow Nikola moving forward, or what are your plans with your Twitter?
Yeah, no, I'll uh, I'll carry on with it. Perhaps not as like super regularly as I did like at the first time. I mean, of course, that was like during the first lockdown. I had like fuck all to do. Now I've got like a uni course to worry about. But I mean, yeah, I should keep up with that a bit, and hopefully one or two videos on the YouTube channel. Just if I feel like it. So yeah, I'll continue to follow it. People can always like DM me, ask me like anything they want. So yeah, carry on with that.
Awesome, man. And tell people where they can find you on Twitter and social media platforms like YouTube.
Yeah, so Twitter, I'm Nikola Tesla's Ghost, and that's at Nikola Truth. I'm sure you can find that. YouTube, I'm again Nikola Tesla's Ghost. I don't post too regularly on YouTube, but I mean, subscribe anyway. I'll probably post after this, make a video. I don't know, something like that. So yeah, that's where you find me.
Sweet, man. I really appreciate your time. People look up to you, following Nikola since it's been such a hyped company. Maybe we can do this again, and I appreciate your time, man. Take care.
All right, take care.